Pung. I work for the Michigan Municipal League, and I think that most of you know who that organization is. We're a statewide nonprofit that serves all the cities of Michigan. We have more than 520 Michigan members that we serve, and Laingsburg is one of them. We also work closely with our admirable friends at the MEDC, including Nate Scramlin with the Pre-Development Assistance Team, and my wonderful colleague, Christopher Germain. I don't get to talk to him very often, but hi, Christopher. Um, we have done many different things over the years, particularly with the Redevelopment Ready Communities program. We have seen that many cities like Laingsburg have gone through that program, and you should be proud of yourself for having become certified. I think that you were early on in the process, and that's wonderful to have gotten across that finish line. We have helped with that program, and we've also helped over time with helping cities move forward beyond certification. We have said you get over the finish line and you're like, well, glad we did that, and then we're not seeing sites redeveloped. So we have worked with a variety of different talented teams over the years. Sharon Woods has been on many of the teams that we've worked on for site redevelopment, and you're so lucky to have her on your board here. We have been also working in Laingsburg, though, with the Giffords-Webster team. And we brought them in because of their expertise working in a variety of different situations. And in this instance, what we did is we took our partnership with MEDC, and we were able to use dollars that came from the state. You guys have paid for it with your tax dollars. And it has come through our contract management to work with Giffords-Webster to bring their expertise directly to you. It's cost the city nothing. I think we've told you this before, but we're just reminding you, it costs you nothing except for your time and your energy. And we thank you for participating in this conversation today. Now, Nate's going to tell you a little bit about where we are in the process, and I will remain one of your contacts for this project. But once we get through the completion of the RFQ, which is the request for qualifications package, and the understanding of the market analysis, you're going to be working with Nate on the next steps, and he's going to talk to you about that. So we are here and glad to work with you.
Thanks, Melissa. So yeah, we've been working on this request for qualification for quite some time now, and we're very near to the finish line. I think there's just some graphics things that we're kind of tightening up. But Paula and I had a conversation through, my team has been working on these in a number of communities across the state. And, during the pandemic, and especially I think in this fall, we started to see a little bit lighter attendance to some of the site showcase things that we were doing. We had to switch to a virtual environment, obviously, like we are now. And we want to make sure we're putting our best foot forward when we actually release the request for qualifications for your community for this particular site. So through the conversations that I've had with Paula, we think that the actual release of that might be best if we wait until the springtime. Hope springs eternal. Hopefully things are turning around. Hopefully things are loosening up across the state. We might be able to do something in person. Who knows? But I just think, that may be the best time for us in order to release this thing. However, with, kind of what Melissa said, once the RFQ is completed, my team will come back in and work with you to schedule one of these site showcase events where we'll be inviting developers from all over the state. That doesn't mean, everybody's going to show up, but obviously, we'll do some pointed marketing to developers right there in the region and, in the Lansing area, maybe in the Flint market, maybe even Bay City Saginaw market, trying to draw from some of those, trying to bring some other development names that may not be familiar with Laingsburg, but may see it as an opportunity. So we also, would invite anybody in the local market, any local folks that are interested in doing a development like this. We would encourage that as well. But with that being said, there's a portion of that RFQ that Giffords-Webster has worked on that we wanted. Paula mentioned, I think it would be nice to get a little bit of that information disseminated to the DDA and to any council members that might be here today or this evening, and just have a better understanding of what it is we're trying to attract, what it is that might be feasible within downtown Laingsburg. And kind of with that, I hope to turn it over to Matt Schwanitz to kind of disseminate some of that information for you folks tonight, just to get a good understanding, and hopefully, create some stewards possibly of a future development that might be there. Let's talk about, let's create a buzz in town. These are the types of things that maybe Laingsburg could support, or, this is the type of development that we want. So with that, Matt, I thought I might turn it over to you. I didn't know, Melissa, did you mention you had some slides perhaps for that, or was Matt just
We
going to
have a
chat through it?
stack that had been prepared in advance, and I have it as a backup in case Matt's internet connection is choppier than necessary.
Okay.
And it is a problem. If you could bring it up, Melissa. And Howard Cohn's in your lobby trying to get in. I think he's got a glitch. Their firm did our market research. If he can't get in, I can certainly cover for him. So I'll get going. That's just our nice standard cover sheet here. Excuse me if I sounds like I'm winging it a little bit, and my internet connection is pretty bad right now. So
to their credit, this was sent to me 2 weeks ago before Thanksgiving even, so they've been ready.
So if we can go to the next page. Okay, basically the general scope was to conduct a stakeholder meeting, which we did do back in this past January. We also, we've encouraged all of our clients in this process to undertake ALTA surveys, and survey that we generated, but an ALTA survey is actually a title survey. So rather than getting too far along in the planning process and then discovering later when you're about to sell it, there's a defect in either the boundary or the ownership or a number of other things. We've encouraged a lot of the communities to go ahead and get that done now, because all it does is create a wait later when you're buying. We can talk about that a little later. We also conducted a market study, which Howard conducted. We also visited the site and did a concept plan. This is a little stronger than a normal concept plan. We got into really testing the site from an architectural standpoint, just in terms of the fitting, but we also put some architectural cues on it that you'll see. We then also had a second stakeholder meeting in April to go over our general findings, have discussions, hear wants, needs, desires, goals for the property, incorporated them into a final tweaking. And then we generated a final marketing report for you also. So we can go to the next page. In the first stakeholder meeting, we talked about general land uses, targeted land uses, whether they be public or private. The majority of the comments were is that you wanted private uses, you want private land development, and encourage new retail, possibly new office, new residential. Also wanted to tie those into, and you've got such a great recreation opportunity, your existing recreation complex just beyond the property. We wanted to try and create linkages and take advantage of that. Definitely voiced the need for additional housing in the area. Also a desire to have a good mix of uses on both the property and in your downtown. And we also, after reviewing the zoning ordinances and looking at opportunities, we wanted to make sure there weren't any additional standards you wanted to impose. The community's goal was to have a 2 or 3 story structure, similar in scale to the buildings and development you have in that general vicinity, as well as create some good connections to the existing park, which I mentioned earlier, and parking. And one of our assumptions were that the downtown area would provide all of the parking for this site so that you didn't lose usable areas, since it's such a compact downtown space. We can go to the next. Okay, our ALTA. On this, we found no facts of title that were an issue, no peculiar issues at all. Usually in these small downtown areas, whether it's city of Detroit or a smaller community as yours, every parcel has a little bit of a ghost or a mess in it. Most of them aren't big deals. This was relatively clean. You've got some utility lines that go through, but there weren't any busts in the property. It was properly monumented. A few of the parcels were the remnants of splits and deeds to other parcels, but all the facts of title were intact. So it's really in very good shape and ready to go from that perspective. You wouldn't have a slowdown when you start to market it, where everybody wants to put the brakes on to start evaluating issues. We can go to the next. Now, Howard, are you in the room? Howard's not in the room. And he wanted me to, if he wasn't able to get on, to basically qualify a lot of this. Obviously, we're in the middle of the COVID crisis. So where the market is right now, you can see some, certainly some reservations in the general development community on how to proceed. This would all, anything you pursue would be based on pursuing deals with the COVID issue settled down, or at least your market in a stable condition. I don't think you want to be sellers in a weak environment. So hopefully, the early part of next year to the middle part of next year, you'd be ready to go. What Howard did see in your housing absorption and housing market study was a pretty steady increase up through into 2018, and then in 2019 there was a fair drop, and I need him to explain that. I did not book and study on that in the report, but beyond that peculiarity, your market has had a fairly steady upward movement in both value and demand. Okay, and housing growth, basically the same thing. You've had a fairly steady growth in the area, but 2018, 2019, there was certainly a slide in the market for housing. But as we go on, we'll be able to talk about some of the averages that are going on. Average household income in his study was about $113,000 in the area, with median income in the area of about $54,000. That average is better than the indicator. It's a better indicator of the community spending power, the income ratio.
A quick comment, Matt.
Yeah.
The previous two slides, that was looking at single family housing and the trends of single family housing and new single family housing creation. This dovetails with some of the findings that you have in your market analysis later on, where you're showing that at a certain income level, that there's the need for multifamily housing or smaller housing units because fewer people in your household.
Right, because there was a gap, and I think those declines were showing gaps. That's a good catch.
Exactly. Yeah.
They were actually showing lost leaders that you needed to pursue. On the grocery side, you've got pretty comparable income and spending dynamics that we've seen in other markets. The residents tend to dine out for lunch on a fairly regular basis. About a third of the apparel shopping is done in the majors in the area, and about a shop online at least once a week. So that does probably show, and it's a big indicator of what's going on in the general market. There's downward pressure on sticks and bricks retail, unless you're a specialty use, or your specialty food, or your dining. Character commercial development on this one, I've got to, well, I just glitched. Have you guys still got it up on your screen?
We're still here.
Okay, let me see if it's just going to strobe back.
Do you have this document with you, Matt?
No, I got it preoccupied in my. I don't have it pulled up in my computer right now.
That's all right. So we're looking at the resident survey with character commercial development. Blending with walkability is important. We want to make sure that this fits into your downtown. We don't want it to stick out like a sore thumb, but we also want it to look like this was an investment into your downtown, and that Laingsburg is growing, and that the quality of the new construction is going to be reflective of the quality that you already have there.
Yep, I'm back up now. Yeah. The real punchline was fit and finish, and quality of what is done. Not just the need, but the feel. So we can go on to the next.
Okay.
Well, I'm glitching again here. Just a sec.
So if you go back to that previous screen, I used that information to give some information on a grant that I did, like, so why I have someone that wants to put a couple of apartments downtown. And so in order to justify that, I said that, we have, we use this information to show what we do have within a walkability range. And then it also helps support the need for some more shopping within walkability range. But if we don't get people living downtown, how do we provide them a place to walk to shop? So that's how I use this information.
Perfect, Paula. It's exactly what we like to see people do. The value of this project is that we're focusing on the site to try to redevelopment, but we're also trying to give you materials that you can use in other ways, just like you described to us here. And by saying what you all don't have, is also saying what you all could use. So
Correct.
Love it, love it.
Right. When you look at it, and it's back up on me again. I'm sorry. This is strobing on me. And really, that is the punchline. When you look at the quality ratings, it tells you that people are looking for not new but better. Okay, we can move on.
Okay.
Okay, and then the residential survey. Things you probably already know intuitively. Your average home sizes are in the 2,000 square foot range. Most of the residents stay in their homes, with about a third staying. They may or generally may plan to move in the next 5 years, but it was a fairly soft response. Those who do move, it's really a lifestyle change more than anything else. It might have to do with the members of the household and their needs, or aging, or empty nesters. It's not because of lack of desire to live in the market.
So I think for me, what this tells us is that we have a lot of homes that people can live in, but we don't have apartments. We don't have places for, the single mom with a couple of kids, or grandpa and grandma that, everybody's moved out and they are looking for a place to live that's smaller. So, as you age, you don't necessarily want a 2,000 square foot home anymore. So I think that that's what this tells us, is that we have a need for a smaller housing.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And it's not just for the move downs, it's for the new move ins that are becoming affluent, want to live close to the community. And number one, they can't find that house that's for sale. And number two, they don't necessarily want that house. They want to start slow. I'm thinking my own kid, they want to do an 800 square footer or a 600 square footer if they could find it.
But when you say, our average home is 2,000 square feet, that means we have lots of homes that are more than 2,000.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't move into town looking for, a 3,000 or 4,000 square foot house. So that's how I use that information.
I think that's a fair point.
I like the point that Matt's making about how you know this intuitively. You all probably have examples of people in your family or your own selves. My in-laws live in St. John's, just down the street from you all. And they couldn't find a smaller house that they could live in. So they ended up remodeling the home that they have, which is way too big, and putting a master bedroom on the first floor so they didn't have to climb the stairs because they couldn't find what they wanted.
And we have people moving out because they can't find what they want. As something smaller.
Excellent point.
We move on.
All right.
So demand forecast, Howard's bottom line, about 90 to say 100, but 90 to 120 residential units are certainly supportable over the next 10 years as new builds, new entries into the market. And of those, probably half, 35 to 50 can and should be multifamily to satisfy the discussion we just had. You don't have that right now. So the opportunities clearly ripe in a neat little downtown like you have. That's a great sweet spot for higher density. It's where you want it. That's your retail anchor. That's your business anchor for the downtown. It's not a big box retailer on one end of town. It's people living there that work better. We're involved with the redevelopment of several older mall type retail centers right now, and our anchors in all these concepts are more residences, not new and improved Macy's or Nordstrom. It's bringing people into those centers to live, shop, eat, and be entertained. And it also causes those centers to diversify. They're not just drinking city. Matter of fact,
I absolutely agree with that. I feel like, we get a lot of pressure to like combine commercial aspect with a project. And right now we have commercial space that isn't functioning because we don't have residents to support the commercial space. So I feel like, that is important information that we need to put in here, is that, this has to not only have a commercial aspect, it absolutely needs to increase the number of people living in downtown.
and to give you a little perspective on, how much elbow room do you need for, and multifamily is the obvious one, the obvious opportunity for your downtown. What kind of elbow room do you need with that? Well, typical multifamily townhouse type development is 10 to 15 units an acre. Maybe some units are down in the 8 unit an acre range, but those are rather large, rather expensive units. They tend to be in that 12 to 15, sometimes 18 range. Higher density projects, real multifamily buildings tend to wander upwards to 20 units an acre. So you're talking about just a few, not just a few, but a few acres of land to accommodate that market, not tens or hundreds of acres. Likewise, on the office, which we haven't spoken to, there's a clear possibility for the need of about 15,000 square feet in your immediate market from Howard's conclusions. 15,000 square feet, about an acre and a half, maybe 2 acres of land, depending on what kind of space that is and who's in it. If it's medical, they're going to certainly need more land. If it's straight office, tech, office service, they are really going to be more in the 10,000 unit, 10,000 square foot an acre range. So, an acre to 3 acres is what that's really telling you in terms of surface area, just to put things in perspective. Okay, we can move on, Melissa, if you don't mind.
Sorry.
Oh, no problem.
Trying to help Howard get in.
Yeah. So demand forecast. Survey indicated there's an opportunity to diminish the exportation of dollars, basically the loss of spending within your district. It suggests that the city could support close to 200,000 square feet of retail goods in the general area. Again, that's going to put that perspective of square footages and acreages so you can get an idea of land area. It's about the same formula as office. It's about 10,000 square feet an acre that generally yields, depending on what's going on, whether there's a lot of food, a lot of sit down, or whether it's more dry goods. So you're really, on an average, you're probably talking about 20 acres of land there of new development, if it's not repurposed existing development. So that hopefully that gives you a good spatial relationship of what that means if it was just landing in an open. Certainly could accommodate the reuse of vacancies too. And I might scroll back to that quickly, Melissa, because Howard did see, a fairly even spread of demand too. There is a potential for some hardware, along with the general merchandising and food. So that's a pretty good mix if you can attract it over time.
You can go in any direction.
Yeah.
It's like on the chessboard with the queen. You can go anywhere.
Everybody's back into chess now. I was an old chess nerd in college and then fell off of it, but it's neat to see everybody into it. Other observations, the obvious one, work with the existing building mix, the existing owners within the market, whether they're stable or weak or vacant. You want to work hand in glove with all your folks in the community, because you got to create a good symbiotic relationship where all the businesses are supporting one another. The best way to create businesses, to have good businesses and have healthy businesses. So that's rule number one. Walkability, an absolute must in market conditions now and in design conditions. National and regional retailers are trending very strongly towards open, walkable communities, not in enclosed malls. They're all generally migrating out of those, and they want a community that feels like a downtown. Guess what? You've got it. Certainly have to create and dedicate a lot of time to it and manage it, but you've already got the working points up, and you've got a lot of neat little funky items that really complement one another scattered throughout. That really is a big plus. Okay, the concept. This is the fun part everybody gets to see. We looked at what the general yield would possibly be on the site. We tried to pick a not too controversial architectural theme. One of our designers came up with this. It's got a little bit of traditional, a little bit of modern clean, but it insinuates a mix. This could have retail and office on the first floor, and if you can scroll through to the next concept, basically you could either be office, retail, service industry on the first floor, and then we're generally suggesting that residential be on the second 2 floors. Throwing in a mix of balconies, some nice architectural features, a little bit of difference in square footages in each floor to create that interest, but not enough where you're losing a ton of value. It's a cool site. You've really got a neat piece. That little via, let's scroll through a couple of the others here. You've got a neat little walkable via, and what we're showing here is you've absolutely got great potential for street side seating. Your property line complements it. You don't have nasty grades that can't be accommodated. You certainly have a grade break across the property front yard where the sidewalk is, but that is easily addressed. We've got a good key point for a main entrance area. We'll scroll through the next one maybe. This is that side via, which is not part of the property. You've got that walkway that goes back and ultimately to the park, and some of your government buildings in the back. It's a wonderful link. It's actually a nice little design as it is, needs minimal enhancement. Probably wants to be, the key entrance into the building, have, the streetscape that we're talking about here, but have a very strong entrance off of that. Very dynamic, great opportunity. And you can see we inserted a few balconies in here to create some interest for the residences and create a little bit of a premium. And that also, we'd have leasable space underneath them. So you're taking advantage of those from a cost standpoint. It's not wasted space on the balcony. We'd have lease space underneath it. That's that via again. It's a great feature. And
I know that balconies are becoming even a more important component of multifamily housing.
Yeah, and when you get an urban balcony system like this, it creates a huge rent premium. Everybody's got to have it, and you actually end up having auctions. So that building you saw, about 10,000 square foot footprint at the first floor. Conventional high rise, standard footprints about 20,000 square feet. Just to put things in perspective, if you're in a major downtown and you see a Seagram's building or something like that, those are about 20,000 square foot footprints. So it's about half of that. The nice thing about it, and where I'm going with that, your interior mechanical systems, your stairwells, and your elevators, which would be necessary, don't screw it up. You've got plenty of leasable area when you've got that kind of a footprint. You get below 10,000 square feet, you start losing a lot of efficiencies in your building. So you've got a great opportunity here for an entrepreneur that comes in. They're not going to see anything that's spooky, that portion in the economy on the construction side, where they have to go through a ton of expense to realize a relatively small yield. So it's really good, really great. You've got a good opportunity there. Second floor, just want to talk about the residences.
So sorry.
So we got about 19 units scattered through the other 2 floors. There's a little bit of square footage difference between the second and third floor on the concept we drew. That had a lot to do with the balcony systems, and that was about it. But they're all averaging, the way we drew them up conceptually, around 900 square feet. The second floor, I think, Get my old eyes on here. Yeah, second floor, we were about 900 square feet, 890 square feet, and just under 1,000 square feet a unit on the third floor. Those are good size units. They could certainly be streamlined down, but it at least shows a potential investor the opportunity to have a little bit more premium apartment if the demand's there. But they could certainly take them down considerably. We're working on some conversion projects downtown Detroit where the efficiency units, if you want to call them that, are more on a New York scale, 500-600 square feet. I'm not suggesting that, but the markets are starting to go in that direction for the working singles fresh out of school. I don't know if a working older like myself would tolerate that, but you've got a lot of potential. Okay, we can move on. So we gave you the Cliff Notes version. We're here for questions, clarifications, anything else you'd like to know. Be glad to share.
Just where's the investor?
So I have a question, or more, maybe I want to hear your thoughts on how you think this building that you're talking about here would affect those of us that have existing buildings. You know, some of it's rented, some of it isn't. You know, should we look at this as a plus? Should we look at it as a minus?
Then you got to look at it.
I have definite thoughts. I just want to hear your opinion of that.
Yeah, if when this happens and it gets leased and occupied, that shows there's demand. People are looking in the market. A good market is a market that has old and new happening at all times. If you want to guard yourself and not proceed on this, there might be some financial reasons to do it out of the gate, but creating new interest, creating folks that want to move into a newer unit. Guess what? They've got friends that then want to come into the downtown. Guess what? You've got a restaurant at the lower level that proves that the market's going to support it, which means the other restaurants should be getting spin-offs. It goes on and on. Yeah, I would say if there was 100 acres right next to downtown, somebody wanted to do a mixed-use development, is it good for you? Probably not right out of the gate. It probably would hammer the downtown pretty hard if a significant portion of it was retail and mixed use. But this is a little different. You're bringing residences in this concept. That's certainly encourage businesses that they want to be on that second, third floor too, because they're going to be using your businesses in one fashion or another and creating a market for you and opportunity.
Okay.
I'll add a comment there. Mr. Giesler, I think that you allowed me to have a look at your lovely loft when we came to visit last year. And having that kind of home downtown, this is what we see a lot of people being interested in when we've done projects before in, say, when we worked with Sharon in Allegan. We were talking with how hard it was for them to get people to understand the desire for people to live above existing retail or new retail or walkable to a market or walkable to those restaurants that Matt has pointed out. Once they tipped it to people understanding that, 70% of their upper story got flipped into some form of use. Mm-hmm. Not to say that it will happen overnight, not to say that COVID is not a condition that we need to take into consideration, but we will continue to adapt. And we know that there is always going to be a certain segment of the market that is not going to want to continue to live in their 2,500 square foot suburban home. Now, that's great for people raising children. It's great for certain personality types, but there's going to be people who want to live in these types of units.
Yeah, an important thing too in the general market too, when you get a use like this or a conversion, say we were here talking about one of your buildings, an existing building, and it's getting converted. Either way, one thing it does help to prove, lenders get more comfortable too, because you've got a brand new shiny penny that was built and it was occupied and it was financed, and everybody else in the downtown can point to that and show that it worked. There was a lender willing to lend in this market, and there was a market willing to lease or buy in this market. And lenders look at that very hard. If you're more of the same, I'll just be blunt. If you're more of the same, just cruising along and there's not much happening, there's not going to be that much happening with the lenders either. They do have kind of a prove it to me attitude, at least from my experience.
Yeah, well, we experienced that. I mean, we were running around with banks that they were like, well, what do you have for leases? What do you have
Yeah.
our place? And it's
We had
like,
no comps.
well, we own these buildings, we have collateral, why, but so I'm agreeing with you. And just so everybody knows, I just wanted to get your opinion. I'm of the opinion of you're either, and maybe not quite this blunt, but you're either growing or you're dying. So Laingsburg needs to grow and needs to do things like this to keep us expanding and keep us growing. And so I think this is a great thing. I just wanted to ask your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it gets you away from the what if argument with lenders and with potential buyers and leasers, and you've now got a one-to-one scale model of how things work, rather than a speculation that you're trying to sell real hard, but you don't have any demonstration that the market's there for you or the lenders.
I know that like when we bring, businesses into town, and we take them to the planning commission or whatever, sometimes we'll get the comment, well, what do we need another restaurant for? What do we need, and what people don't understand is only one restaurant does not bring everyone in, so not everyone wants to eat at that restaurant. And sometimes people like to eat at that, downtown 3 times a week, and we only have one restaurant. So if we had 3 restaurants, they would come down 3 times a week. And while they're down there, they would stop and, buy a pair of shoes or whatever, or get their hair cut or go to the post office. So they help, all these businesses help each other. I mean, if we only had one business, we would not survive. And so the people that need, the people that are listening to this are the people that need to understand what we need to do to grow.
And Paula, I'd like to just comment on that too. You talk about one restaurant or even 2. A lot of times, for me and maybe my cohort and maybe some of the younger folks too, that maybe just finished college, one restaurant is actually a deterrent. I can't wait to go to another community that has a different variety, right? So
exactly,
the more variety you have, you might be able to begin to start retaining some of that talent and some of those young folks, rather than, I assume a lot of them may jump out of town for a while. They may come back eventually, but you may see a higher retention rate with a more flourishing downtown with different restaurants.
Yeah, it's all about creating a new demand, different demand. Creating a little jealousy in the market too, where people really want to be there. And so there are a lot of other little things you have to consider, especially in a downtown area, little nudges you do over time to improve it. You guys have already got a lot of activities. You got wonderful programs. You've got a great park right next door that's heavily programmed. You're already there. You've got tons of things going on.
Oh, since you've been to town, we've changed so much you wouldn't even recognize us. We have an amphitheater now and outside seating.
Wow. I remember when you unveiled the plans for that amphitheater, it was wonderful.
And I saw the concept plan. That was a neat concept.
It's built. It's built and it's
stuff
beautiful.
done in Laingsburg.
It's beautiful.
I'd like to point out.
Wait a minute. You got that done in a calendar year with all heck breaking loose. That's pretty good.
Oh yeah, you bet we did.
We're not going to let the state get away with that.
I've got projects right now that we've designed that have been postponed for at least 18 months because we can't get trades.
Ours is built.
This is all Paula. She's the one getting it done. She's amazing. We're so lucky to have her.
This is the mayor, and I would like to comment that based on what Paul had said, I have heard the same in the last 18 years. I've heard it several times where, why do we need a restaurant? Why do we need another bar? Why do we need another church? It doesn't make any difference what it is. Restaurants, bars, stores, they come and they go. The more you have, the more people frequent and they know they're there, and things change for everybody. You have people that can't come to meetings or they have to get out because of family problems. And that's the way business is too. And I've been here for 66 years and I've seen more businesses come and go, but I've also seen a lot of them stay. So as far as the buildings and still operating. So you got to have one to take the other one's place if one descends and goes away.
I noticed Howard, you're on now. I see you.
Yes, I am. I
Howard's
went
in the
home.
room.
The new,
I stepped
Yeah.
terribly on his toes here. So Howard, if you got anything to add?
I don't know what was said, but actually, whatever this gentleman said, most of what he was saying, I concur with. Businesses do come and go. Let me start just by maybe going backwards, because I don't know what was said that wasn't in our presentation, because
Howard?
yes.
This is Melissa from the Michigan Municipal League. Thank you for recognizing Mayor Culpepper. We were talking about the presentation that was sent to us by Jill
Yes.
Boehm, and
Yes.
we covered the content of that, but we're looking for your key market insights.
Okay, well, that's where I was going. But I wanted to start by a little bit of saying, look, everybody is having a tendency to say that COVID has changed the world, and that, it's never going back to where it was, and everything like that. And let me say that most of what you're seeing, okay, whether if it's on the commercial or residential side, was happening prior to COVID. What COVID has done is sped it up. Where it may have taken 5 to 10 years, it's taken 7 months, okay? And that's one of the big differences. And, 2 years ago when I would give presentations, Jerry Adams, I know that you know him, and, we do, and Jill and everybody, when you give presentations, it's funny, but, 2 years ago, I would say that the 41, and this is a fact true, 41% of all new office space in the United States was being built in the homes. Today, it's probably 95%. And after COVID's over, it'll probably be 80 or 85%. It didn't change anything. It just, with the exception of restaurants, I think, were the only ones that were really, really hit hard in this process. So our recommendations in there are still very strong, and I hold with them very firmly. I don't think it's changed. If anything, the opportunity exists now more than what it ever did before, okay? Where we might have had to wait some time, we don't really now. This thing hopefully is coming to a head. Hopefully by next time this year, we're all celebrating together and everything's okay, but so that's the thing that I wanted to emphasize. And what we had came up with in the recommendations were a number of projects that could be catalytic to Laingsburg, okay? And I think that that's important because it can be distinguishing. It can set you apart from everything else in the Lansing, East Lansing area, and in fact, in the state of Michigan, okay? And there's a couple projects that are identified in there that will really allow you to draw from people from all over, which helps every other business in the area. And then there's one that isn't commercial oriented, but is residential oriented. And that is, you're in a great location for an active adult community, okay? And because you're close enough to other things. And from that would be dynamite too, because that pours millions of dollars into your community without a lot of infrastructure costs. And so, there's a number of ideas in there, but I just want to assure you that the data is fine. I did some checking this morning. In 2019, the data is now finalized on the county. They came out somewhere between 2017 and 2019. It was right in, it wasn't as high as 2018, but not as low as 2017. And we're talking a handful of houses as the difference. So I believe the housing and the commercial is good enough for what we did, that those numbers still hold, and that the proposals we had in there are strong, and it's up to the community whether or not they want to try to capture that activity. And I know you're going out with some kind of RFQ or whatever for developers sometime, I guess, in the spring or whatever. And I think that's great. We've been involved in that kind of activity before. So, and it's successful usually.
Thanks for explaining that, Howard. I struggled with those downward spikes on the bar graphs for the residential.
Well, I think we've covered everything we wanted to make sure that we shared with you. Are there other questions that you have for our experts?
I have one question.
Hi, Gail.
So we're rehabbing, and we've been rehabbing for the last few months, the downstairs of our building. And we've noticed in the past 3 months, prices of building supplies are just like going out of the roof.
Yep.
And it's like what we budgeted is not even close to what we're having to pay. And I'm just wondering, like this type of building that we're looking at, do you think that the prices are going to go back into a line, or do you think it's just going to be like that after COVID? Do you think that COVID's causing this real quick increase, or because it's hard if you're investing in something and you have a budget and a timeline, and COVID has really pushed us not getting things done as quickly because people don't come out as quickly and that sort of thing. So do you think that this is going to push back this project, I guess, and make it harder for the community to do something like this?
Matt, you want to answer first?
Yeah, I'll start from the shorter term perspective. Most of the contractors we work with, it's right now it's supply point and delivery. Lumber is through the roof. I think it's in some of our little sub markets, it's almost double. I don't know what you're seeing around there, but it's just nuts. I just re-roofed a place up in Port Austin, my place, and it was for a small little job how much it went up, but it was strictly materials, not labor. We're relatively high in the entire state on the labor side because we lost a ton of skilled construction labor in the last recession. But that line stayed pretty stable since then. People come in from out of the market and they're shocked by our construction costs related to that. But the materials, the contractors I'm talking to think that's all going to stabilize within the next 3 to 6 months. And by stabilize, get back down to something more reasonable. Because it's just nuts right now. It's just production's out of whack because of COVID.
Matt, I would concur. And you're in a cycle where not everybody has been hurt. Home improvement, for example, for the same reason, home improvement stores are doing dynamite. They're off the charts, and the lumber is one of the issues. Yeah, it is skyrocketed. I think it's in a lot of places I know it's a lot more than doubled. It's really, really
yeah.
But this too shall pass, because what you have is a boom market. Once the market settles down, the prices have supply will meet demand, and inevitably you'll be able to move again forward. That's why, you pick a time frame for your project that's realistic. And I believe you will get people that are interested in investing in it. Perhaps not today because they're afraid, but they're going to wait till after January 1 anyway. And you're waiting till after January 1. So it doesn't, it's keep your boots on. Okay.
Yeah, in the development time frame, it's important to know, if one of you walked into our shop and said, we're not architects, but we practice it from a conceptual standpoint because we've got great designers. But if you walked in and said, we want to start a project and we want it up in how many months? Well, the how many months includes entitlements, design, permitting, ordering, contracting. It's an 18-month to 2-year process. If you walked into our office cold and said, we want to see something up in the air, how quick can it happen? It's generally 18 months to 2 years minimum when you go through the whole process.
So, Matt, that's if you're where they are, because it can, a project can take good 5 to 7 years till it actually evolves and reaches fruition.
Absolutely. That's coming up and saying, I've got a piece of land, I've got, a pro forma, I'm ready to go. Without a lot of due diligence. It's that at a minimum in the best of times. So
I can tell you from experience that in 2006 or 7, when we started talking about building that park that we have over there, McClintock Park, we were laughed at. People said this would never happen. And now look at that amazing and beautiful park that we have. And now we have the amphitheater. I mean, we just put the cherry on the cake, it's like, but it took 15 years. I mean, this stuff doesn't happen overnight. You have to have someone who keeps this ball rolling, and you have to have the support of your community, and you have to start to show results. And if you don't do any of that, then we're going to be stagnant. And,
pretty remarkable you hung on to hopefully your prices, but you also hung on to your contractors through this period, because there are a ton of projects that turned into non-starts right at the beginning. Earlier.
Oh, yeah. Well, one thing that was great was we used a local contractor and,
Oh, so you know where he lives.
yes, we do. We certainly do.
That helped.
Plus,
But he had other projects that were delayed. And
Sure.
he wanted to keep his people working, so we were able to provide that avenue for them. And they worked, they were close by, they could come right downtown and do their work and go home. And, so he had other projects that were canceled or delayed. And, actually we just paved, last week. So we're done, our pavement's down, our electrical's in, our lighting is up, grass is planted, trees are planted. But I mean, that project we thought we could use it this summer. So we are off of our time frame, but not 18 months,
Oh my God, you're doing great. That's not off this year. That like you guys got that done in light speed. The fact that you were able to still pull it off.
We're just
But for
waiting
me-
for social gathering to come back.
right, get out there.
But for me, this information is not, I don't expect that we're going to put this thing up overnight or any of that. But what I want our boards and our staff and our people to understand is that what information is in there that we can use to promote this type of project. We have other empty buildings and we need to, and we have other vacant space, and right now we're filling up those storefronts. Aaron just moved from East Lansing into Laingsburg. Aaron Budnick moved his insurance office in here. Jeff and Gail are busy trying to fill 4 buildings right now? I don't know, and Dave Shinsky's running a, vet clinic from remote kind of, it's like, you got to drop your dog off and stay in your car. I mean, we're all fighting through this and getting through it, but you have to know that we're all working towards the same goal. And that's why everybody needs to understand why I wanted you guys to come and go through this information again and reiterate the importance of what we need to do and how we need to stay focused. And no, these things are not going to happen overnight. McClintock Park was at least 15 years in the making. So,
Well, and I want to stress to y'all,
rose up, Matt.
I think we lost him.
Yeah, we may have
no.
lost it.
He still looks good.
I don't even see him.
While we're experiencing technical difficulties, Paula, are you all reading Proud Places? Are you reading Strong Towns? Are you reading a variety of different blogs that are out there talking about what some of our small and mid-sized cities are doing to continue to reinvest in themselves?
Nope, I haven't been reading that.
All right, let me drop it into the chat. And nope, we don't have chat here today. I will email you along with the
I'm just
presentation.
probably not that savvy. I don't know how to do chat.
That's okay. It looks like it's disabled. I'll email you a couple of different references along with the presentation that Giffords Webster has given us here today. Matt's back. Okay. I was punting.
am I back? Am I back
We
You're
got
back.
Or-
right now? Okay, that may be good, that may be bad. What I really wanted to stress is the building concept we had, which site designs itself, but that footprint, those floor templates, it's a very, floors can be different uses. You don't have a geometry on each of the floors that dictates it's got to be residential, dictates it's got to be office, dictates it's got to be retail. You've really got that 10,000 square foot footprint is really a great dimension. It really is. Comes down to land planning and planning. It's really almost perfect before you start going up real high. You've got tons of flexibility on the use of city.
Let me, for those people who are in the process of trying to fill up vacant space, just a word of advice. If any of the space had a kitchen in it, and it still does, hold it, okay? The
Yeah.
restaurants, when you look at your data, okay, your residents want to eat at restaurants that are locally owned, locally operated. That's what they do. That's what they did before. That's what they're gonna do again. Okay. And if you notice, a lot of the chains, again, before COVID, were having problems. Okay. Because people like that intimate kind of atmosphere created by that local ownership. And if the kitchen's there, or you can buy it from the people who may have put it in, you know, who were the tenant before. Hold on to it, because the most expensive part of building a restaurant is that kitchen. And whether it be this person who was in there before or somebody else who comes back in, okay, it's the kitchen. If the kitchen's there, you got a big head start in getting somebody in there.
And
Now,
that's highlighted
don't
how-
go out buying a bunch of stainless steel restaurant packages they're in bankruptcy.
Just hold on to what you got.
Hold on to what you got.
Yeah, and Howard, that's another wonderful point that's made in the RFQ that is just about finished to be delivered. The idea that there's a lot of different restaurateurs that are just trying to get off the ground, and so they need that interim space. They don't necessarily want to do a food truck, but they don't necessarily have the ability to carry the expense of a large restaurant. To have something that's pop-up that could meet serve safe standards, or that could be a shared kitchen. Yeah, wonderful.
So I have another question, and I'm not looking for more of a thumbnail, right? What will next steps be on this? I mean, is that something that the city will go out and try and find investors? Will we wait for an investor to come in and say, hey, I want to do this? You know, how will that process work when everybody's ready to go?
That's
Good
Nate.
question, Jeff. Yep, I'll answer that. So the redevelopment services team at the MEDC just kind of quarterbacks all of that. So once this RFQ is done and completed, they'll kind of set it in our hands, you know, making sure, of course, everybody at the local level is okay with the package. And then, you know, we'll kind of partner with Paula in the city to release that. You know, we'll be doing a big press release. We would, of course, encourage any local media to want to pick it up, you know, throughout the county as well. But we do some direct mailings, direct emailings, and to be quite frankly, we place phone calls to developer contacts that we have across the state and invite them to what we call a site showcase event. So we'll do in normal times, we would do a 2-hour event over lunch. We'll come in, we pay for lunch, we organize it right in town so folks can come into town that may not have been there before. Get an idea of what's going on, get a feel for it. Man, it'd be cool to do it in the summertime at the park with the new amphitheater, right? That would be a wonderful place to do it. And then we would feature, of course, the RFQ. We would walk through it, you know, maybe get some of the county economic development folks to talk about some of the other great things happening around in the region, to really try to encourage these investors to come in and, you know, hopefully set up a development agreement or a purchase agreement for the property. But so after that event, you know, we would anticipate receiving some proposals for the particular site. They may or may not look exactly like what Giffords has put together. And, you know, and again, we don't really want to pigeonhole any developers to having to do that, right? We kind of want to leave it a little bit to their own creative notions and how they want to organize the building on the site and what really is going to work for them and they think financially. You know, they have a lot of their own considerations that they need to make. But we'll be kind of, like I said, quarterbacking all of that, and we anticipate the release of that happening this spring.
All right. Anybody have any other questions?
All right, I think we're set, guys. I appreciate you going through all that with us again, and look forward to continuing with the RFQ.
Yes.
Be proud of yourselves. You're
Yeah, we
making
appreciate
incremental
it.
progress.
Yeah, and I want to repeat again, you've got a cool little site here. This is really neat. It's got a lot going for it. And I don't even want to call it potential. It has it already.
Thank you.
Thank you
Great.
all.
Thank you.
All right. It's been a
Have a
pleasure.
nice evening.
All right. We'll talk to you all.
Stay safe.
Thanks.
Bye.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda is new business. Do we have any new business tonight? All right. Old business. Beasler facade. What was that, Paula?
So, you want me to jump in, Paula?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so last year we came to you guys and wanted, I don't know if grant, I don't know what it's called, but the
Phase
$5,000
forward,
for the facade redo, right?
phase
And
forward.
planned on doing windows, right? And due to various, well, of the salon, right? We've had these renters, and that's taken all my time. And
The COVID, the windows all took a long time to come in too, and so we had till November 29th to do it. And I don't think we're gonna have them in by then, obviously.
by tonight,
Yeah.
yeah. So have the windows. I'm just looking for an extension for that.
We just got the windows.
Just got the windows. You
What
know.
kind of time you looking for, Jeff?
I would like to go to May 1st, which I know sounds like it's a ways out there, but I got to finish the salon. And then we have a wedding happening in December and Christmas. And then we're into January, February, and I'm not real excited about installing windows in the middle of winter. So that would give me March and April to actually get the windows installed. So,
So I'd really give you a 6 months extension.
yeah, yep.
Yeah, I mean, you already have the windows, so I guess, I don't know if we need to have a motion or somebody wants to make a motion to
I'll
extend
make
that.
the motion to extend the Giesler's Face Forward grant to the 31st of May. So that gives them the 1st of June.
Perfect.
Okay, does anybody have is there a second? Anybody want to second that?
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion to extend the Giesler's Face Forward for 6 months till May 31st. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. History sign unveiling.
So I just wanted to plant a seed, kind of the same thing with the windows. So we have the history sign. The amphitheater is pretty much complete, but I'm thinking maybe we want to wait to spring to install the new history sign and do some sort of unveiling event. Something where we get all the boards together, we
I support that fully.
do some sort of big little hoopla, and unveil that with the amphitheater or something. But I think we should make an event. I don't think we should just put the sign out.
Yeah,
I
no,
think-
that's good. I'm all for that with the amphitheater doing it all at the same time.
Okay, we can just work on that over the next few months and kind of think about if anybody has some ideas or whatever, let's bring it up in January because you guys don't meet in December. So just kind of planting a seed for everybody to start thinking about how we might want to unveil that sign.
Sounds good. All right, then we have fit on here.
Just wanted to follow up from last month to see if anybody had anything they wanted me to follow up with on the fit thing, or, is there something you want to look at or keep working towards? They gave us some goals and things to look at. And I mean, we took care of the outside seating. We could keep working on that. We've done the history sign. But I mean, I don't think we should let that fit assessment lie. I really feel like it has generated a little bit of excitement and that we're all kind of feeling how that is working for us. And I just kind of want to make sure that we keep that ball moving. Sharon?
Yeah, thank you. The biggest,
Oh, you're muted.
sorry, guys. So they talked about a kayak launch, and I feel like that could be such an asset for our community. And I struggle a little bit to imagine where that kayak launch could go. And I know that there were logistic challenges and cost challenges and such, but that is one recommendation I would really like to not lose sight of.
Yeah, I think that would be out just outside of town. There's some property out there along the river.
Just seems
That's a good one.
seems so strange that we are a community along a river with no launch at all. You have to go way out of town one way or the other, 15 minutes in either direction to find a launch. And that is, something other communities are, I mean, even even River Rouge, downriver Detroit River, is figuring out ways to get a kayak launch in their community because they know that residents just are really responding well to that kind of amenity right now. Water sells. We have lakes. We're surrounded by lakes. We're on a river and we have no launch. I don't know how to make it happen. Maybe.
I think that maybe we should keep this information on our agenda and talk about like the launch and whatever things we want to do. Like maybe we could do a list of things and kind of start just checking off how we could work towards some of those goals.
Yeah, so here in part of the problem is that that's out of our district, of all the river property. I was out of the DDA district because we had talked about putting a trail back around the lagoons, back to the river, back that way, or then possibly out there at the bridge on, I think it's Laingsburg Road, where the property goes out to. But unfortunately, as far as the DDA is concerned, that's way out of our district boundaries.
I
That's
know.
always been like the
I
stop
get
it.
I understand, but we talked about doing an unveiling of the history sign and doing a joint meeting. We bring our other boards together and we talk about some of these things and maybe pass the baton so that the right board is addressing the right challenge. But I wouldn't want to me, that is so important that I wouldn't want to drop it just because it's not in our, not within the DDA jurisdiction.
I also don't think that it, prevents you from working on that project or even spending money on that project if it brings business into town.
I'd like
Hopefully,
okay.
hopefully in our plan that we allow for that, which we're still working on completing the update. So
Maybe we could do a social for all of our boards that comes with the unveiling of the history sign, and we just kind of, maybe we even have a meeting of some sort and talk about these things.
maybe we can meet in person again.
And maybe I'm dreaming.
The one thing on the fit assessment that I keep going back to, but we really can't do anything about it right now because of the COVID, but to bring the state park people over here. I think once we get more where we can gather, we really need to go back to that, because having all those people, 4 miles from our town, I feel like we need to spend some time figuring out how to get them here to shop.
We have done some work with that ad where we put that QRL out there, and we're working on the Sleepy Hollow ad right now. So
Right.
we're kind of hoping
Yeah,
that ties that in, and then we have that sign just as you leave. I think that it might be time to update that sign as well, and kind of keep that more active instead of just being the same thing that people have been coming there and see. So I think we need to work on that Sleepy Hollow sign for sure.
All right. Then you had the amphitheater on here. Was that part of just unveiling that we
Yeah,
were
just
talking
sort of
about?
an update. I know Bob's on here. He might want to give us a little update. He might have fallen asleep by now. I don't know.
You there with us, Bob?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just woke up. Thank you very much. I do have to say that was a pretty great presentation that you had there tonight. I was very impressed with everything that they had to say and the way Laingsburg is thinking forward. You guys are doing a fabulous job. As far as the amphitheater goes, Paula was right. We're just about at the end. Just some minor things. We have to put in the bumper stops for the handicap parking, clean up a few edges here and there, but it's pretty much done. So the grass is just starting to germinate. It'll take off, I'm sure, in the spring. And the asphalt went down at the very last possible minute, which was great. We got in there before the plants closed. And I think that you'll find people coming from Grand River down the street there into the park as you come to the pavilion. The walkways sort of separate, they open. I've been walking the park pretty regular here in the past 3 weeks. And it's got a real nice flow to it. So people can see the amphitheater from just about anywhere. They'll migrate in and they'll be able to stand around. And as was mentioned before, you have a sight line from the twin pavilions directly into the amphitheater. And that sight line continues all the way to the parking lot on the far west side. So as you walk the top of the sledding hill, you'll be able to hear and you'll be able to see. So if the seating fills up, which we hope it does, those people that didn't get there early enough are going to have to meander around, but they'll still have a view. So the overflow is kind of a planned thing. It's a consequence. Many of the other parks with amphitheaters of similar size, 50% of the people don't really want to sit still for that long of time. They want to move and they want to talk to their friends and they want to listen and socialize. So once COVID is over, watch out. I think the amphitheater is going to explode. And I know that Jody and Paul and others are working on the programming. It sounds really, really exciting. And I want to thank you all for letting me be a part of it.
Well, thank you for all your hard work, Bob. We appreciate it.
So while we're on the amphitheater, one of the things that is kind of up for discussion is how we're going to manage the amphitheater. You know, we have the city council, we have the DDA, we have LARC, we have a park and rec committee, we have the LBCA. I mean, we have a lot of people that want to use it, but we got to figure out how, you know, do we want to promote this thing? How do we get people coming to the amphitheater? How do we get acts to the amphitheater? Who's going to manage all that? Does it need managing? So any thoughts and ideas on that would be very much appreciated.
So since we've had our city council meeting and it was discussed that the amphitheater was getting closer to be able to use this summer, I've actually reached out to St. John's Amphitheater and formed a relationship with Bill. I don't have the names in front of me. And also the vice president of the committee at Owasso. And they would actually like to form kind of a relationship with us so that maybe we could help each other because they've already went through it. And Bill even said that he would come to one of our meetings and talk to us if we wanted to about some of the things that they've seen work for them, haven't worked for them. They are set up differently in styles. The one over in Owasso is set up as its own 501c. The one in St. John's is actually set up through the arts committee, and also but the city owns the amphitheater. So there's different ways that these amphitheaters are getting, you know, used per se. But you know, we talked about, you know, did they hire a manager or did they not hire a manager? Was one person on the committee, you know, handling the forms? Was it, you know, electronic, what it wasn't? So I feel like I've gathered some information, I guess, of what other people are doing. Things like weddings are really big now in amphitheaters. Things besides music, you know, reaching out to them and seeing what they're doing, I think is going to be beneficial for us.
Well, don't we have it like the pavilion up there? You have to come into City Hall and make a request and rent it. Is that how that works?
We haven't set up the policies of how it's going to work yet, I don't think. So, for instance, St. John's, the way they do it is that they do the music and they have a certain calendar weeks that they're doing that. And then the city actually rents it out. The city actually rents the pavilion out, and there's a form that they send into the city to see if it's available. But every amphitheater is a little bit, I mean, I don't think everyone's actually set up exactly the same way. So I think we have to figure out how ours is set up and figure out what's working for others and try to adapt it to the way ours is set up.
And I think we need goals. I mean, what is our goal for this amphitheater? What do we want the amphitheater to accomplish? I mean, that's one of the things that I think is important. The whole reason that, you know, the grant was written was for economic development. So we got to figure out ways that that amphitheater is going to help our businesses and our community.
Well, we're kind of driven off having concerts there, right? So that attracted people to downtown.
That would be great.
Well, and I'm also curious, going way back, Paula and Mayor again, back 15 years ago when we introduced or discussed the fact that we don't have anything that we charge for in our city parks or anything. This is going to change a lot of things. If that amphitheater wants to be rented for weddings and so forth, that's just going to be massive work for people, and there needs to be fees on stuff.
And what I'm seeing is that some people are allowing certain things free, but charging for other things is what I'm seeing. I mean, I've started asking the questions, you know, because I feel like we need to use our resources of people that have lived through it, I guess, and see what, and if they're willing to help us. And they even also said that they'd be willing, the guy over in Owasso actually said that he'd be willing to try to get better acts because we could be like together trying to get acts in too. So I feel like forming a relationship with some people that have already done some of this, I guess.
Well, I believe that's true, but I also believe that the city's got to figure out what they're going to do with the parks, if it's going to be free, if they're going to rent out pavilions and the
Right.
amphitheater and so forth. And that's something they haven't been able to do in the last 15 years. So they're going to have to work on it. And that's why I say that's the first thing, in my opinion, has got to be established, just so everybody knows the ground rules.
Right.
How you work it as far as getting the other cities and stuff, I think that's wonderful because you can play tag team off of other bands or acts or whatever, such as you're talking. And I think that's a good round robin way to know and stay connected with everybody.
So Jody did come to the DPW meeting. You know, she's on the committee, Parks and Recs.
Right.
And she did discuss a little bit about trying to do a committee, but it basically got pushed back to the city council. So I think it's going to be on the agenda for city council this next time. So, you know, I think Jody would like to be involved. So I do expect to see her at the city council. And I think, you know, she's starting to think about procedures and things that need to be in place for it to work too. So, and I think she's been a good asset to our community. And I feel like having more people help would be helpful.
I think you're right. And I think that, quite frankly, this is my opinion and mine only at this point is that it doesn't need to fall on Paula's shoulders. It needs to fall on somebody else outside that can control it, and they don't have to worry about the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
If that be Jody or somebody else that would like to do it, that's to be determined, I guess.
All right. Well, that was the last thing on our agenda. Anybody have anything else? No? All right. Well, we'll adjourn 7:23.
All right, we don't
have a
see you
very
until January.
Yeah. Everyone have a Merry Christmas. Be safe.
All right, you too.
Thank you.